Okay, so we're on to the racking in of the pipes, which is basically fitting the pipes to the upper boards, to the rack boards. We now know that we're nearing the end of this project. So what we do with the little pipes, it's very, very easy. We have a little jig here with all the different hole sizes that I've got, the drill sizes we've got, and we just find the one that is a tight fit. That's tight, that's loose. So with that note, we put on the sheet, we work on the sheet, and that is middle C, and that is 20 mil. So very easy. On to the next one. Try the 20, that's still okay, so it's 20 again. Now that one's a little bit loose, so I will mark that down as a 19, and this will be reamed out of the rack board. That's perfect. So that is actually a perfect fit and won't need adjusting at all. There are very few of those, but it's nice when it happens. And we just work our way up, all the way up to the trebles. I won't film all of this, I'll do the wooden pipes next. Now we move on to the wooden pipes, which are easier than the metal pipes because you get a batch of the same size feet. I'm still going to do every single pipe because I don't trust my turning. I'm not the best turner in the world, so that they should be pretty close, but that's exactly 20 millimeters, which is lovely. So I'm going to mark the new stop on here, which is the 8 foot, and work out which pipe this is. This will be the first 7 are horizontal and the rest are stayed up on off-note blocks or on hooks off the hole, so they won't need racking in. So the first one is, I believe, tenor F sharp. So we can put a 20 down on that. Now that's a little bit loose and it's marginal, but I'm going to put that down as a 19 because I can get that. What I would like to do with these is to have them tighter rather than looser, because this instrument is on wheels. It gets moved around the church. The pipes wobble and they will move. So not when you're in a static church organ, you don't have to worry so much about this. It can be a nice loose fit, but I do like having these on the tight side so that they stay put. As long as they're firmly in their feet hole, the tip hole, it's not a problem. So I'm going to put that down as a 19. I'll put that, probably the one before, as a 19 as well. And I'll just work through these. See, that's a tight 19, that's back to 20, so put 19 for all of those. We're going to work our way through those onto the 4 foot, and then we'll get the rack board out and we'll show you what we do with that. Okay, the next step is to transfer the dimensions we've done on the racking in jig to the rack board itself. So with a little bit of help from the drawing, I'm going to just write on the numbers onto the rack board. You know what drill sizes to drill. Right, so now I've transferred all the numbers, drill numbers I need, or drill sizes I need to drill the relevant holes. I can take the rack board off. Now you'll notice that the rack pillars are made of aluminium tubes. Traditional way of doing this is nice wooden turned rack pillars, which just slot into the rack board and the upper board without any screws. But again, because this instrument is mobile, this rack board will eventually become loose, and we really don't want that. So anyway, once the way I do it with the screws is obviously it's never going to move, and if it does come loose, you just tighten the screws down. So now we can take the rack board over to the drill and start drilling all the holes out with the corresponding sizes I've marked on them. This is just a tedious process, which what we do is we don't drill all the way through like I've mentioned before. We drill halfway through and then we turn it over and drill from the other side, which means you can get a nice crisp cutting finish on both the top and the underside of the board. Right, now we can put the rack board back on the pillars. We just need to find the holes, line up the holes with the aluminium tube. That's the one disadvantage about using aluminium tube and not traditional wooden rack pillars. With the wooden rack pillars, they have a sort of tapered top to the top of them, so they locate much easier. But it's not a big deal. Once we know they're all lined up, we can knock them down with a mallet. Then we put the screws back in, screw it down, and now we're ready to start the process of fitting all the individual pipes to the corresponding holes. It's quite time consuming, this, but we just work through it methodically and slowly. And what you really don't want to do is to rush this. You've got to take tiny amounts off at a time because you don't want them too loose. So there's one that's too tight. So I'm going to get the reamer, which is on the drill, and just really slowly taking tiny amounts off at a time. You can't rush this because you want it to do a perfect fit. As I said before, these will be slightly tighter than traditionally done because I don't want them to move in the instrument once the instrument gets moved around. So we just go until it's just a nice snug fit and it's locating into its tip hole, which is the critical thing. You can see there's a tool roll there with the different size reamers. I just change the reamer size whenever necessary as we work up to the treble. See, that's tight, but it still moves in its hole. The feet aren't glued in to the pipes at this stage. I'll do that once all the voicing is done. One of the last things I do. I'll put them in the instrument and they'll all be glued in and make sure they're all upright and square. So as you can see, it's just a time-consuming process that has to be done correctly. Just keep my finger on the hole that was done so I know when I come back which the next hole is. These are all quite good, they're fitting well first time. So now we can move on to the metal pipes. Obviously the first, I think it's the first, certainly dozen or so of the 2-foot metal pipes are on the front. So we'll start with about, I'm not sure exactly what note this is, but the same process, exactly the same process, and because there's a nice taper on this reamer, these pipes will fit nice and snug. Now with the metal pipes you can't have them too tight, because you have to make sure that the weight of the pipe is, the full weight of the pipe is sitting in the tip hole. It will leak otherwise, and then obviously you're not going to get the pipe speaking as you would like it to. So this is a little bit more critical than the wooden pipes. You've got a little bit of leeway with the wooden pipes, but there's no room for error here. You don't want them too tight, but of course on the other hand you don't want them too loose, because there will be rattling moving around, and eventually with this instrument it'll be moved around, the feet potentially could get damaged. So really the metal pipes, you have to take a little bit more time, but just be methodical, don't rush it, and we'll just work our way through to the top of these. Then we'll move on to the 8-foot rack board, and that will be it for the racking in. So we're just left with blowing out the holes and make sure any of the dust and the frass that come off the reamer is not in the rack, in the upper board. You don't want the bits to fall down into the chest and onto the pallet. And that's it done. So the next video will be the mystery of voicing. See you then.